not an easy video to do today, I've got to be honest, but I've got to head it off at the pass. I need to try and do the last word on it. The video I did the other day has got 23,000 views. A lot of video. That's a lot of views for this channel. It's got 684 comments on it, and that's not including the ones that I've had to delete. I've had to delete a lot of comments. There was two particularly nice. I'm not going to lie. There were two really racist comments on there the other day. I'm not going to apologise. I didn't write them, but I do apologise for not getting them off there. If you saw them, I literally, somebody phoned me up and said, "Have you seen those comments on the chat?" I said, "I haven't." They were nasty. Okay. And look, I can't ban people from watching a YouTube video. Okay, I can't. All I can do is block them, report them, and then mute them. Now, when you mute somebody, they can still type the message, but basically the rest, I don't see it, and the rest of you won't see it. I've had to do it with a lot of people. But as I say, there were two really nasty comments. I'll be honest, because I'm going to talk about race in this video. There was one really anti-black comment, and there was one really anti-white comment, and it was just nasty stuff. They weren't the same person, clearly. So they've had to go. There's also been an awful lot of people turning on one another in the comments as well. Which is why you might remember a couple of weeks ago I said, particularly about Isla, I said I wasn't a big one for football family, West Ham family. I thought it was a tired old cliche, but I felt with Isla it was the one time we'd come together. And you'll see in the comments on that video I did the other day, well, I don't think there's such, a football family, a West Ham family. There's a lot of people turning on one another, a lot of people, because it's, well, I'm not making an excuse for it. It's because it's a divisive situation and a divisive subject. And some people think Zouma should have been left alone. I even had one person yesterday say on there the cat should have been left with Zouma. Or it didn't say cat should have been left with Zouma, but by association, by him saying he couldn't believe the cats have been taken away. By association, you think he thinks the cat should have been left with Zouma. Which look, I'm all for people having an alternative opinion. I really am, but I just sometimes think, come on, mate, really. But this has all been made a lot worse by the lack of decisive leadership from the club. And because of that, you've had the media circus. Because of that, you've got the loss of one sponsor, probably two, maybe more. Zouma's, actually, I don't think anything the club could have done for Zouma to keep his sponsorship. That's a totally separate thing. You've got, because of the lack of messaging that goes out to the players, you've got Michail Antonio making comments which even kick it out of racism and distance themselves from as well. There's so much going on here, and I just feel if they'd have just headed this off at the pass and done something decisive, then we wouldn't be in this drama that we are. And we all really, it's sort of dragged the club through the mud, and they should have dealt with it. They should have stopped all of this, really. The club said the other day that they were going to deal with it internally and privately. I said at the time in my video, please don't. Please deal with it publicly. And they did, and what you've got is the obvious, and I do mean obvious and predicted outcome. I did the Zouma video on this channel. I also spoke about it on Patreon. On Patreon, I went into a bit more detail about what would happen, what the RSPCA would do. And it's all panned out exactly as I thought it would, because that's just how these things go, and it is predictable. The RSPCA were always going to refer it to the police because there were children present. What you got there is basically someone kicking and slapping a cat around in front of children. They're going to report it to the police. They just will every single time. The cats were always going to be taken away by the RSPCA. Why? Well, because the RSPCA have one thing in mind, and that is animal welfare. And it's quite clear the animals are better off out of that household. It's really clear. So I don't understand where the complaint is from. I think it must have been incredibly embarrassing for Zouma, because the vans would have turned up and on his front doorstep, and it would have been embarrassing. The whole, I say the whole neighbourhood. It's not like he lives in a council estate. I'm sure he's got a big drive and it's quite secluded, his house, but it would have been embarrassing. In fact, the whole thing, I'm pretty sure Kurt has found himself in a situation where he didn't realise it. He's probably looking around thinking, what on earth has gone up here? I've lost my sponsor. I've been docked some wages. They've already been contacted by the police. The RSPCA are involved. He's been dropped from the France team. What else is there? And the French authorities apparently can convict somebody of a crime on foreign soil of up to 4 years. Look, I cannot comment on French law. I don't know anything about it at all. But he won't receive a custodial sentence for what he's done here, because he's not, for want of dragging this down into its lowest possible form, this video, he's not drowned the cats. He's not. The custodial sentences are there for the very, very worst offenders. He'll be convicted of animal abuse, which is what it is. He'll get a slap on the wrist. He'll get a fine, and he may even get some community service. If he does get some community service, I hope I hope it is actually an animal sanctuary or something like that, only because it'll make him feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I think he does deserve that, because the other people that work at an animal sanctuary, because they work at an animal sanctuary, they love animals, they won't be particularly impressed with him. I don't think that would be a fitting punishment. Calls for him to go to prison, I think is a little bit much. But the club should have come out more strongly on this, because they haven't. It's a direct correlation between them losing the sponsorship and them not doing anything. They should have just turned around and said, Kurt is unavailable for selection. What they did was they basically said, we don't condone animal violence. Well, nobody thought you did, but actually your messaging is then quite muddled. But we'll leave it until the RSPCA have dealt with it. It was basically, you deal with it, make it go away. Oh, what's this? Oh, look over there. Which is what a lot of people have been doing, by the way. The look over there. They should have said he's not available for selection. Ban him for 5 games or something like that. Just do something. And actually, I don't know how much. There's 2. I think it's their Vitality and Kissimmee, something like that. I don't know how much they bring into the club each year. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $3 million. I don't know. But they've lost some money. The club have lost a bit of money because of this. They didn't have to. And again, everyone's looking for decisive leadership. There was none at all. In terms of the look over there, and then hopefully you'll avoid this. There's something that's really cropped up in the comments quite a lot, which I do want to discuss, and it's this binary view of it's either this or this. So Mason Greenwood's come up a lot. Let's do a Mason Greenwood quickly. What Mason Greenwood did is worse. What? I mean, okay. What? You haven't said anything about Mason Greenwood. Well, I have. I spoke about Mason Greenwood last week, but 23,000 people watch this video. Normally, it's 4,000. I understand as people won't know that. I did. I spoke about Mason Greenwood last week. Why aren't the press talking about Mason Greenwood? Well, because it's about to go to Crown Court. They can't. They can't prejudice the trial. Basically, Mason Greenwood is going. Well, I'll tell you now, he's going down for some very, very serious offences. The press cannot talk about it. I'll tell you now, though, once that trial starts, because they can't be seen to be influencing any jury or anything like that, once that trial starts, it'll be front and back page. It'll be non-stop. They can't say anything at the moment. So that's why there's no feeding frenzy with Mason Greenwood, okay? The other thing, so basically, but it's as if you have to choose one or the other. Why are you talking about this? Mason Greenwood did worse. A lot of comments on it. There's worse things happening in the world. Well, yeah, obviously. The other, I mean, it's one on there. There's starving children in Africa. Well, okay, yeah, but you can still be appalled at that. You can still help out with that, and still be disgusted by animal cruelty. Both are true. And I just don't understand this choice. And I mean, there are a lot of comments on there. A lot of comments all saying the same thing. Worse things are happening in the world. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, but just because someone gets murdered, does that mean you don't report an assault because it's not as important? Just because people are starving in one country and there's famine in the country, does that mean you don't do food banks over here? Because one is worse than the other, right? I just don't get that. Just going for the worst possible thing and then saying because Mason Greenwood did this, you shouldn't be talking about this. It's nonsense. I'm sorry. And I do always encourage people to comment and debate on here. But what's been going on this channel has not been comment and debate. That's not what's been going on. There's been people really having a go at each other, and I've got to try and address all the things, because it's. Do you know what? I could hide away, and I understand I'll get more negative comments on there, but you know what? The other thing is the vegan stuff, and I'm sorry. It's the hypocrisy thing again. Okay, so the hypocrisy is you can't comment on this because you're not a vegan. What? I mean, I there's a really interesting one. A lot of the stuff, because there were a lot of the comments from a lot of the vegans on here. And I don't want to particularly make this about them and us or anything like that, but they did. I didn't. I would treat everybody the same, but there's a lot of it on there, and there's actually one guy who's a regular contributor on here who is actually vegetarian, by the way, and another regular contributor has gone at him. You can't say this because you know, and basically turned around and said, well, why haven't you even asked whether I eat meat or not? And he just turned around and said, well, do ya? He was still really, really rude about it, and actually, so you've got people setting upon each other, which was really, really weird. Okay, let me get this right. You're not allowed to call out animal cruelty because you might have had a fish finger last night. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. The logic is, there's no logic to it. I can't comment on a drink driver who's crashed into me because I got 3 points on my licence. It's crap. It's absolute crap. You can be appalled by what you saw. Okay, and I don't want to overly get into veganism and animal husbandry and animal welfare on an agricultural scale. I understand there's some hypocrisy there. I get it. I absolutely get it. But it doesn't mean, otherwise these things don't get reported. If what you're saying is basically a meat eater can't report this, then there's going to be a lot of things that don't get reported. It's as simple as that. We get on to the Michail Antonio one, and it's a really odd situation there for Antonio because, will kick it out, have distanced himself from the comments. It's this choice again. It's this choice, isn't it? Basically, he basically said, well, what do you think's worse, animal cruelty or racism? Why can't you think both are bad? What? I don't understand why he did that, and that's why, obviously, Kick It Out separated themselves from it. See, the trouble is you get into all of this stuff, and it's really got little or nothing to do with football, but it happens in football. Racism happens on the terraces, so it becomes a football story. A footballer does what he's done, what Kurt Zouma's done. It becomes a football story. And it has been a media frenzy, and it's gone a little bit far, I've got to be honest with you. I think it's gone a little bit too far, but it could have been stopped by the club. I don't know who's in charge of this stuff at the club. I don't know if it's left to the press officer, but there's sometimes people are so well media trained that they don't get the common sense of it, and they can't actually predict what was going to happen. And it was quite obvious what was going to happen in this. In fact, racism often gets dealt with in the same way that Zouma will be dealt with. Okay, so people say, I think Jermaine Beckford was on telly yesterday, oh, he spoke well. He spoke really, really well. And Sky didn't know what to do. Sky TV didn't know what to do because Sky have done a lot. I'm not talking about Michail Antonio a bit here. Sky have done a lot recently. I think since George Floyd got killed, Sky have done. They're trying to be as proactive as they can, as proactive as they possibly can, to be seen as inclusive and you know, have really embraced the taking of the knee and the Black Lives Matter. They've really tried to, and Sky didn't know what to do yesterday because they were trying to be. They were trying to be caring as far as the animal welfare was concerned, but then you had somebody who was clearly offended in Michail Antonio, and for Michail Antonio, the racism had taken. He wanted to switch again. It was a case of, oh, look over there, and he wanted to switch it to that. And Sky were probably thinking, oh, I don't, you know, we've probably done quite a lot here. And here's how they deal with these things, because you'll often find there's been, I don't want to name names, but there's been footballers recently who have been accused of maybe making historical racist comments, not even just historical. There's one at Man City that springs to mind. I don't want to talk about it too much. Now, what is always said is the same thing as trotted out, which is they need educating. They need educating. I think it's a load of rubbish. I've got to be honest with you. I think some of the things are not necessarily racist, but I think if you are genuinely racist, you don't need educating. You know you're racist. And I'm just, you know, it's as simple as that. You don't need to go away on a course and be told, oh, by the way, this is mean. They know it's mean. That's why they do it. They don't care. They'll go on the course and they'll tick the box and they'll say, oh, this is why it's racist. This is why it hurts people's feelings. This is why historically it's bad. And they'll come away from the course. They'll sign the thing and say, yes, I understand it. They'll come away from that course. Do you know what? They'll still be racist. I'm telling you now, that's just what will happen. Because it's not until racism becomes too cliched, and as a white bloke sitting here talking about racism, you don't know because you don't suffer. Not in this country, you don't suffer it. But it's not until you've had a family member or a loved one or a friend who who doesn't share the same skin colour as you, who would come home from work one day and sit down on the sofa and cry because they feel they don't fit in, because people have been mean about them because of their skin colour, when you actually realise actually it's not about just the puffing out of the chest and everything like that. Actually, this is a really, really mean and horrible thing to do. My point is the people that do it know they're being mean, right? That's that. And the reason I say that is because I feel that the Kurt Zouma thing will be handled in the same way. They will say, Kurt Zouma needs to be educated. He doesn't. He doesn't. Kurt Zouma will... There'll be a statement released how he's learned the error of his ways and how he now respects animals. Look, I'll say this now. Kurt Zouma doesn't love animals. He just doesn't. Anyone that's watching this that loves animals, that's got a pet, that loves their pet, will have watched what Zouma did, and you know this. He doesn't love animals. Now he will go on a course, but it's not going to change his mindset. It's not going to change the way he is. The best course of action was to take those cats away. It absolutely was. And I can't see any argument to the contrary. I really can't. You get the hypocrisy thing as well that's levelled at... I can't remember. There's one of the sponsors, I believe, as in some way advertises with Sea Life Centre. So people are saying, well, basically they're hypocritical. Well, they are, but there's lots of hypocrisy. We're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of hypocrisy in one way, shape or form. But that doesn't mean that they were never not going to remove their sponsorship. As I understand it, is the Sea Life Centres. If you've ever seen, by the way, excellent documentary on Netflix, Blackfish. I mean, again, if you love animals and you watch that documentary, you can't for a moment think that that these things shouldn't be closed down. I mean, it's terrible. The way they round up the whales and the dolphins is cruel. The way they separate the calf from the mother, it's just cruel, okay? So is there hypocrisy from them? Yes. Can they still remove their sponsorship? Yes. Should the club have seen it coming? Yes, because brands don't want to be associated with this type of thing. Now, see, the thing is with the Sea Life Centre, they will... You've heard what I think about it. There will be people that say, "Oh, this is good. We do a lot for, I don't know, whatever." They'll spin a lot of crap, right? These aquatic centres will spin a lot of crap how it's good for marine life. It ain't, right? But the people that sponsor them will buy into that. There's no way of spinning what Kurt Zouma did. You can't turn around and say, "Oh, that was good for the cat. The cat enjoyed that. The cat enjoyed being kicked. The cat enjoyed being slapped." So, he's a big fella, Zouma, as well. Let's get that right. The slap was like that, and he is... I don't know, 6'3" and at least 16 stone. He's a big old lump. A big old lump. But I do think it's time for him to take his medicine. And I think he is taking his medicine, by the way. This is the thing. I don't want to... He's lost his sponsorship from Adidas. He's not going to play for France. I would imagine he won't play again for France. He is going to be impacted massively by this. He really is. And I don't feel sorry for him at all. But I do think it's now, you now have to let him take his medicine. What I just don't want to do is, I don't want to hear that he is a reformed character and, and all the rest of it, because he ain't. Let's be fair. He's sorry because he got caught. I suspect, and I mean I suspect, I don't know, I suspect that wasn't the first time that happened. I suspect if it hadn't been videoed, it would have happened again. I think, as I say, I think he's sorry because he got caught. That being said, I think he is very, very sorry now. I don't think he'll ever, because of everything, because he's lost a job. Well, he has Adidas in terms of his sponsorship. He has lost a job. I think because he lost his job, he'll be gutted about that. I think because of the public humiliation. I think for lots of things he'll never hit a cat again. But I also think one of the other reasons he'll never hit a cat again is I think, well, by the time he gets to prosecution, he won't be allowed to have a pet again. I don't know why he's got one. I don't know why he would have a pet. As someone that's got pets and the joy that they bring to your life, clearly he's not sharing in that. He's really not. He's got them for well, anyway, whatever. I'm really hoping that the club can get a grip of this and show some real leadership, because it is one thing saying we don't condone animal cruelty, but you can't follow that up by doing nothing. And yes, they fined him 2 weeks' wages, which they've given to a cat sanctuary. That was the easy thing to do. What they've done is they've skipped the moral part. And I understand, look, you know what, we're all West Ham fans, we all want 3 points, don't we? But there does come a point. There does come a point where you're losing sponsors hand over fist, where your team's getting booed, where there's such a media frenzy built up around it that you can't avoid it. You cannot avoid this. And actually, I do wonder if maybe not 5 games, maybe 3 games. I wonder if the club would have been better served at the outset of this, saying we stand behind whatever decision the RSPCA make. As a club, as a club, we can only fine him 2 weeks' wages. We can't do it anymore. If we could fine him more, we would. However, what we will going to do, we're going to make him unavailable for selection for the next 3 games or something like that. Actually ban him, so it doesn't, because it looks like the club have taken no action, and because of that, then the sponsors are pulled out, and the media always follow it up. The same question: they will ask everyone, do you agree with what Kurt Zouma's done? Like anyone on Sky Sports going to say, yeah, I do agree with what he's done. And then they follow it up with, do you think the club should have done more? They could have cut that question out completely. They really could have done. Hopefully, it draws to a close. It fizzles out. But the trouble is, by not dealing with it, the story carries on. So every time I intend on doing a video about Benrahma today, which I guess I'll have to wait. He's not done anything, by the way. But as I say, the video blew up in terms of this channel. At least 700 comments. Couldn't reply to them all. I would just appeal to people to be a little bit more pleasant to one another. I think would be the thing on there. It's so hard. I don't want to mute. Once I mute a comment, that's it. You ain't posting on here again, because you can't sort of just block that. That's it. You're muted from the channel. And people are calling each other pretty nasty names on there as well. And it is a divisive issue, but people love their animals, and I think this comes down to that. People love their pets. And I think it's something, this whole thing is a surprise to Zouma, because he didn't know that one thing. He didn't realise, because there must have been some sort of, I don't know. It's not like there was a secret camera, is what I'm saying. They knew that was going to go out there. Maybe not to the wider world, but for them to record that and share it and think it's acceptable, it demonstrates that they didn't know. They weren't perhaps in tune with how much people care about animals, and the outrage that was going to come up against it. And I'm just really... I think the one thing that's disappointed me most about all of this, I've got to say, is this binary attitude to it, and I think it really has. It's either racism or it's animal cruelty. It's either Mason Greenwood or Kurt Zouma. It's either starving children or this. I can't even say. Honestly, I can't say the words that somebody made the comparison. Why are you talking about this? It's just an animal. Don't you know that this happened? And they picked a news story of the most horrific thing. As if you can't be, and I don't get that, and I think that's what I understand, it's that attitude. I wonder what people are thinking, and I wonder why people's mindsets are like that they think you can only care about one thing, that you can't care that some heinous crime has happened over the weekend, and you care about animals' welfare, and that you think racism's disgusting. I don't understand why that doesn't compute to people. That you can care about all that just because you're talking about one subject, you're not talking about another. And it ain't. Listen, I've got to be honest with you. I've so many times I've wanted to talk about race on here, but you don't, because it's a divisive issue, and it upsets people. But I've got black people in my family. I hate racism. I hate racism. I was engaged. I was engaged to a black girl for 7 years from St. Lucia. I saw some bad stuff, by the way. I hate it, but it is so divisive that you often don't want to comment on it. And so you just trot out cliches. Well, of course we all don't like racism. I don't think it's the case, in all honesty. I do this, but I do feel that I do feel that it's just a shift away from it, and let's just try and draw a line under it. Sorry, a bit of a rambly old video, but I had to do it. There's 700 comments on there. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I am gonna talk about Ben Rama tomorrow. I'm done. There you go.